subscribe button now. And if you are already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube has unsubscribed you. Seems every week I get a few people messaging me telling me that they've been unsubscribed without their knowledge. And of course, be sure to give the video a like. The white supremacists hate that. Now, that said, as I've always told you, the white media doesn't exist for the sake of promoting black people's interest. It exists for the sake of promoting white supremacy's interest. That is the white media's purpose. It is here to make sure that whenever white supremacy is trying to run roughshod over black people, there's a mouthpiece that sanitizes it and justifies it and tells everybody why it's okay. But what happens when the official mouthpiece for established white power loses its efficiency and efficacy? What happens when not so many people are listening? Well, what the white media does is it tries to raise even more noise. It does the same thing, just more of it. But even so, if you want to know how effective we've been at promoting tangibles, Politico gave you a little bit of a notice that they do indeed hear what's been going on in the black media. A little over a month ago, Politico put up a story about how Joe Biden's got a big problem with young black voters. They said exactly what it is that Joe Biden's been denying, what roly-poly's dumb behind has been denying, what Joy Reid and the rest of the black boule mouthpieces have been denying. Oh, it's the older black voters that matter. Remember when roly-poly said that? Y'all need to worry about these young black voters. Y'all need to be worried about these older ones. The young ones don't try to vote anyway. The older black voters, that's where it's at. Well, Politico says no, that's not where it's at. What a surprise. The oldest demographic of black people, the 65 to dead demo, who is shrinking every day. There's a lot of things that people are going to be saying about the older black vote, the black baby boomer vote. But the one thing that they're not going to be saying is that there's going to be more black baby boomers in the future. Their numbers are only going to decline. They're not going to increase. Whose numbers are increasing, however, are the young black voters, particularly the ones who are disengaged from this political fraud calling itself an electoral system. Politico's headline, How Young Black Voters Could Break Biden and Why Democrats Are Worried. Oh, what a very different tone than what we've been hearing up until now, because up until now, apparently, Biden had it all in one sock. You know, the same way that Michael Bloomberg had it all in one sock. Remember that? The white media spent, or rather wasted, a lot of time putting forward their lie that black voters don't seem to be bothered by Bloomberg's policy on stop and frisk when he was mayor of New York. Bloomberg's support for stop and frisk doesn't seem to be hurting him with black voters. And then Bloomberg made the mistake of actually going to black voters. I guess he figured if he didn't do it in New York, he'd be safe. He'd go down to Alabama, where I guess he figured not too many black folks would have heard about his record. Not too many of them would be too upset with him. Of course, he guessed wrong. There were plenty of black folks at Brown Chapel AME Church in Selma who got up in the middle of his little speech and turned their backs on him. And as soon as that happened, the same white media who had spent weeks talking about how Bloomberg's stop and frisk policy isn't hurting him with black voters and how he had all this black support from bootlicks like the mayor of Houston and others, all of a sudden, the same white media was going, whoops, Bloomberg's got a huge problem. Next day, Bloomberg throws in the towel, says, I quit. Answer for it. So what this tells you, just another reminder, the white media is not and has never been in the business of informing your opinion. They've been in the business of controlling your opinion. They've been in the business of dictating to you what to think with carefully crafted lies, but the lies are crumbling before reality. And that brings us to the looming 2020 election and Joe Biden's black credibility gap. The fact that black voters are simply looking at him and going, no, we ain't rolling with that. Politico put up their story, and one of the things that they pointed out was that there are three major crises going on. One that happens to revolve around police brutality, another one around coronavirus, and the third around the economic downturn. But for the black community, there's all three of these things have always been a problem. Healthcare, whether it's from COVID, the flu, cancer, heart attacks, or anything else, have always been a perennial problem for black people. We had problems, huge problems with healthcare long before COVID. Economic downturn, hell, we hadn't even noticed. Maybe that's because black people are disproportionately represented among quote unquote frontline workers. That's because black people have been left out of the information economy. Jobs for the black people who have them are jobs that usually cannot be digitized, cannot be done over the internet, and hence shelter in is not any sort of option for black people in America. And of course, the police, of which the less said, the better. But here they are pointing out at the center of all three crises are black Americans. Okay, so far they've started off the article more or less on point. But of course, this is a white media outlet, so they have to go ahead and sprinkle some BS on it. Because the goal, of course, is to give room to the Democrats to say, well, if we do something for black people, we have to do something for everyone. Oh, we'll sit there and say black people happen to have problems that need addressing, but as soon as we do, we use that as a gateway to try to shoehorn everybody else into the conversation so they can continue the same old policy of, well, black people have an issue, so everybody should get something. And if there's anything left over, we'll give everybody something else a second time. And if there's still anything left after that, black people might get some of it, maybe. But the Politico article goes on to say that Joe Biden's struggling to connect with young voters, particularly those of color. There's the gate, that's the doorway for it. According to public and private polling, a serious problem for the former vice president that started during the presidential primary. Now, the presidential primary was way before this whole COVID thing started. Oh, what they're acknowledging is, yeah, this black media, they've been giving Joe Biden that work. And he hasn't been able to trot out, or rather waddle out, Simone Mammy Sanders to go ahead and mammy-splain for him. That little con game isn't working. Seems the white media thinks that Simone Sanders is damaged goods, along with Karine Jean-Pierre. Yeah, you're not going to see either one of their names in this Politico article. The Democrats understand they got a huge problem with the black community, and it's being led by black men. Black women are on board too, and they're trying to figure out, how do we shatter this black political unity? We got to figure out how to shatter this black political solidarity. So what they're going to try to do, and this article is going to be an example of that. On the one hand, they're going to be admitting to what the problem is, and on the other hand, they're going to be showing you exactly what their strategy is to try to undermine us. Now, the article goes on to say the difference maker for Democrats in November isn't whether Donald Trump will peel off a small proportion of black men as he's trying to do, but whether Biden can persuade young black voters in battleground states not to sit out the election. There you have it. There you have it. Yeah, the problem isn't whether or not Donald Trump can get black support, it's whether or not Biden can. That's the problem. It ain't a matter of black people champing at the bit to vote for Trump. It's a matter of they damn sure don't want to be voting for Biden. And no matter how many black bootlicks and how many dependable, trustworthy boule Negroes they trot out, it isn't solving that problem. Black people are not overlooking it. And the main fear that they have beyond that is not merely that black people are rejecting Joe Biden. The problem happens to be why they're doing it. And the fact that black folks are making it known, this is not a one election thing. This is the new normal. Now, according to a guy called Brandon Snyder, who's the executive director of Detroit Action, be careful of those names. You know, they like to use names that are meant to be evocative of black people, and then you find a whole bunch of non-blacks running around. But he says that I'm worried that a lot of our first-time voters, and a lot of them are young voters, are going to completely opt out of the system. I've been telling you this for a year now, or at least I've been talking about it for years off and on, but starting last August with my video, one of the early videos on this channel, talking about how disengaging from the voting process happens to be a threat to the system. The US has used this strategy in countries around the world because when people are not voting, that means they're getting ready to revolt. You can tell when an oppressive system happens to have everyone under control because everybody buys into the idea that if they just play the game by the oppressor's rules, somehow that's going to change things. You got a scheme set up to make sure you never get what it is that you want or need. But if you just keep doing the same thing that the system tells you to do, somehow you'll get a different result. But when people disengage, that's not going to stop them from fighting for what's theirs. In fact, that's usually the first sign that they're about to intensify their efforts. But they're not doing it by the system's rules. And you've seen for the last month and a half exactly why that is a threat to the system. Oh, people are looking to change, all right. They're looking for change, but they're not looking to get it through the ballot box. And when that happens, that means that people have completely and thoroughly lost any and all confidence in the system, in the system's institutions. And how do you get people back on board? Well, first of all, you got to get them re-engaged with the idea that if they just go back to the same old political electoral treadmill, show up on election day, vote for one of these pre-canned, pre-selected tools of white supremacy, oh, something will happen. Yeah, but not anything good. Now, the article continues to say that Cornell Belcher, a Democratic pollster who worked on Obama's campaigns, called the protests an opportunity to reconnect and re-engage this cynical and disillusioned segment of the electorate. Now, look at the wording that he uses. Cynical and disillusioned. He's right about the disillusion, but cynical? Cynical is what you call, say, a Democrat who passes a number of laws geared toward mass incarcerating black people, and then that person turns around and says, well, it was these black preachers who wanted me to do that. Hey, Bill, that's what you said to say, right? Bill, you said that for Hillary 4 years ago. How'd that work out? Well, Joe, it didn't work out too well. Not sure if you want to use that talking point. Well, damn it, Bill. It's the only line we've got. All right, then if you say that, that's what we're going to do. That's a cynical person. That's cynical. But just goes to show you, these scumbags can't even talk about the very people who they allegedly are trying to get back on board without insulting us. Oh, this is an opportunity to reconnect and re-engage, but notice that he doesn't say an opportunity to obey. He doesn't say that this is an opportunity to address their concerns. He just says reconnect and re-engage. You know what reconnection and re-engagement means? If Massa leaves the plantation for a few weeks and the slaves start to get a little bit rowdy, Massa has a couple of revolts on his hands. He's got to come back and calm the little darkies down. See, he can reconnect and re-engage, but he's not going to be obeying them. They're going to be obeying him. And this is the mentality at work. Cynical. No, those young people in the streets are not cynical. Those young people in the streets are not jaded. They've had their eyes opened. That's what's happened here. It is the white supremacist tools like Joe Biden and Cornell Belcher. They're the cynical ones. But this Belcher character warned that for Democrats, young black men were the most problematic for the party, since that group's participation dropped the most from 2012 to 2016. Now think about that. This guy's taking direct aim at black men in particular. I guess nobody's told him that a number of black women are also just as fed up. Now, maybe they're not, maybe the numbers of black women have not gravitated in the same direction as black men as quickly, but it's happening. And pretending that it's not, that's not going to help you. Acting like, oh, well, this is just a problem with young black men. They admit in the article that the problem's bigger than just young black men. But these are kind of feel-good lies they got to tell themselves so that they don't pee their pants and crap their britches all at once. But look what he says. Young black men were the most problematic for the party. Really? Well, you don't really want the votes of a bunch of cynical problems, do you? People who are cynical and problematic, you don't really want those votes, do you? But of course, this is not about black votes. This is about black people confirming that they're back on the treadmill. Look at how much political and legislative progress has been made in the last month and a half without a single ballot being cast. Without a single election having been held, without a single candidate of any political affiliation, even remotely acceptable to us, having been put into office. Didn't have to get anybody elected to get things done. Didn't have to get any legislation passed to get things done. You show that these streets get hot, and all of a sudden the politicians, when they see that, no, they're going to be coming to your doggone house to address these things. They're not going to the House of Representatives. They're going to the politicians and the police and the judges' houses. Then all of a sudden, you know what? We've had a chance to rethink this. We can all get behind this. Yeah, because the problem is they do not want the people who are mad as hell about the fact that they're being picked off and being ground into the dust to decide that they're going to be taking their grievances directly to the government officials and the thugs with badges homes. They do not want to be touched by the power of the people. But they think that black men are leading the way, and they are right. Black men are leading the way on this. And black women happen to be with us as well. And this is what scares them. The very dynamic that they have been trying to find a way to forestall and postpone and undermine for 150 years. Now it's here in their faces. It hasn't stopped. It's just continued. Speaking of continue, the piece goes on to say Democratic margins among African Americans, not just African American men. It says African Americans dropped 3 percentage points from 2016 to 2018. Now, think about that. 2016 to 2018. That means since Trump has been in office, Democratic margins among black people has gone down. But what they've pointed out is this is not because black people are so excited about Trump. It's not because Trump's gaining black support. It's because the Democrats are losing that black support. Black people are disengaging in period. And they had to admit that. Quote, Biden will no doubt win a large majority of black voters, at least 9 in 10 of whom have voted for Democrats in recent elections. Democratic pollsters said the party should worry less about Trump winning over black men and more about those who are ambivalent about Biden and the party. That's a hell of an admission now, isn't it? The people who are giving the Democrats their so-called sage wisdom, the individuals who are giving the Democrats their political expertise, what they're saying is you shouldn't be worrying so much about Trump getting black votes as much as the fact that you're not going to be getting them. Trump won't be getting those black votes, but you won't be getting them either. That's the reason why the Democrats are trying all sorts of pathetic little stunts, trying to figure out, is there any way that we can do an end run around black people's tangibles? Is there any way that we can try to find a way to reassert our control over the black mind and get black people back under the thumb of the controlled opposition as opposed to the direct opposition? Is there any way we can get them back on board? I know. We'll go to Georgia and you know how screwed up those Negroes are out there, and we'll go ahead and take that joke, that dysfunctional sewer of a group out there. We'll go ahead and try to find a way to get them toeing the line. They're pretty gullible. They're pretty dumb, right? Well, they may not be as dumb as you think, because a lot of them have been listening to the black media and getting their minds right. But just to give you a window into what the Democrats' cynical strategy is, you have something calling itself the New Georgia Project. Again, how many these are not even black organizations. I told you about that. Black PAC and all these other things. These are just inventions of white moneyed interests. They get some Negro to be their front person, and they're just going to be that puppet doing their bidding. So between New Georgia Project and this Detroit Action, you see how they use those names, you know? They don't put Democrat on there. They want to make it something where black people will be, oh, this is a place where black people are at. That's the game. That's the bait and switch. But this New Georgia Project, they apparently claim that they're going to register and mobilize young black voters in Georgia. Why Georgia? Because it's a state that Democrats think they could make competitive. Hillary Clinton lost Georgia by 5 percentage points 4 years ago. In the 2016 election, Donald Trump carried Georgia. Not by a huge margin, but doesn't matter. He still got it. Now you see why they keep giving so much phony lip service to Stacey Abrams and Keisha Applebottom. That's the reason why they keep talking about Georgia so much. Why do you think they focus on Georgia and not Detroit or Chicago? Because they can't carry Michigan, can't carry Illinois. So they're looking at Georgia and thinking maybe we can make some inroads there. And make sure you put some black women out there, because that's the entire point. Hopefully, if black women see a couple of house Negroes out there, Keisha Bottoms and Stacey Abrams, they see them, then maybe black women will go, oh, I got to vote for them because they got a black woman out front. That's the reason why you have that idiotic, crazy talk about Keisha Applebottom and Stacey Abrams perhaps being on the short list for consideration to be Biden's running mate. Imagine this guy's already in the freaking summer, damn near at August at this point. He still hasn't figured out who his running mate's going to be. What does that tell you? What that tells you, as far as he's concerned, he's looking and going, God dang it, I really don't want any of these people, none of them at all. Can I have a white guy? Can I have a white guy, please? So what that tells you is they can't figure out the right way to manipulate us, because all of the people who they want to use are damaged goods. Stacey Abrams couldn't get black support last year. Kamala Harris, please, we've cut her off at the knees. The black media broke her political back. So trotting her out, everything that you criticize about Biden are the exact same things that people ripped Kamala Harris apart about. So putting her on the ticket, they're just going to buy him more trouble. Oh, what he wants is to try to put some white person, or at least a non-black person on there, but that's the thing. He's caught on the horns of a dilemma, and there are no good options because we've cut his options off. But trying to put their chips on fooling black female voters in Georgia, that strategy may not be as feasible as you think. Galvanizing black female voters with some front Negroes, that strategy doesn't have the effectiveness that it used to. See, it's not enough merely to drive up Trump's negatives. They have to drive up Biden's positives. But what you see is they're doing the exact same failed strategy that they pursued in 2016. The same thing, just more of it. Now you realize why it is that they're reaching out to non-black voters so aggressively. This is an all hands on deck situation. They're trying to pander to and cater to every non-black constituency that they can. Casual racists read white moderates. Immigrants read Hispanics. Asians, what have you, the LGBT, anybody and everybody at all, please. But by the way, just something on a side note, the article points out that the Democrats have been trotting out people like Barack Obama and Killer Mike and Keisha Applebottom to try to speak for the Democrats. And you can tell that that's meant to appeal to the black baby boomers and meant to appeal to the hood rat contingent, because black folks who are actually about politics, we're not taking any cues from Killer Mike. Okay, those of us who are actually about this political thing and paying attention, we're looking at Killer Mike and going, other than being a sock puppet for Bernie Sanders, what the hell has this guy brought to the freaking table? What the hell has he done? He gives lip service, but that's about it. And the more you listen to him, the worse he sounds. When you got black folks in the streets fighting against police brutality, you don't lead with, I'm the son of a police officer. God dang it, you a guaranteed snitch then, Negro. That's what you just said. I mean, who is supposed to be the audience for this propaganda? Obviously not the young black people who are supposed to be voting. They're certainly sure as hell not falling for it. They're not going for this garbage at all. And the Democrats' only response is to basically say, if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you ain't black. Well, Biden, the way things are going, you ain't going to be president. While the white media is trying to put forward the left-wing line of Donald Trump's got all these problems and we're going to make a horse race out of the 2020 election. Oh, nothing is etched in stone. Trump's already on his back foot. Like I give a damn. He's not promising us anything. The question is, why are you trying to make me think that I should see Biden's presidency as inevitable, so I might as well support him because there's no point in not supporting him? Well, hell, if there's no point in not supporting him, then it also doesn't matter if I don't, does it? Oh, once you get outside of the cozy confines of the Caucasian Nazi network and mayonnaise sandwich nothing but Caucasians, otherwise known as MSNBC, once you stop listening to their line and you start looking at the rest of the opinions and the rest of the sentiment, either online or across the country, what you find is, yeah, while Donald Trump sucks, the problem is people tend to think that Joe Biden sucks more. Politico's article says that a Monmouth University poll released that week found that Biden won voters under 35 by 25 percentage points. But the problem was only a third of young voters viewed Biden favorably, versus 59% who viewed him unfavorably. that means Biden's only got about 40% favorability among young voters. Think about that. Now, they do point out that Trump's favorability among young voters is worse, but the thing happens to be that's why Donald Trump spends so much time hammering his base. He spends so much time